What's up, guys? It is your favorite YouTuber ever, Topher Crost, here with another deck profile, but this time I'm doing a Magic deck profile. I've done a Yu-Gi-Oh! one, figure I'd do a Magic one. My channel is getting pretty Yu-Gi-Oh! heavy, not that that's a bad thing, but I decided to switch to my other favoriteest card game to play, Magic the Gathering. I'm here to do a deck profile of my Goblin deck. My favorite deck to play, if you have seen my intro, is an artifact deck with the header Platinum Angel. This deck is a Goblin deck with the header of Abyssal Persecutor, who is your in-game in the Goblin deck, or one of your in-games in the Goblin deck, which, if you haven't seen what his effect is yet, I'll go ahead and pull him up here. Flying Trample, you can't win the game, and your opponents can't lose the game. Well, you might be asking, how is that a good thing? Well, let me get to it. This is my black-red Goblin deck. So without further ado, let's get to the deck profile. Now, this is a 60-card deck, because it is Magic, and in Magic you can have up to 4 of any card in your deck. Excuse me. The thing about this particular deck, it is a great deck for people who are just starting in playing Magic to play. So I would definitely recommend, if you're new to Magic, pay attention, because this deck is good for you. Alright, so first off, we're going to start this deck with 2 Abyssal Persecutors. You're going to play 2 Abyssal Persecutors in this deck. Flying Trample, you can't win the game and your opponents can't lose the game. It's that simple. It is a 4-cost creature that is really good despite its effect, because it's a 6/6 swinger, an early game swinger. In fact, it's the highest cost card in your deck. This is a really low cost deck. Abyssal Persecutor at 4 is going to be your highest cost. So you're going to run 2 of him. And since I know now, unlike my Dark Magician profile video, that this wasn't a I'm not timed, I can make the video as long as I want. I'll explain why he's so effective in this deck later. Put him to the side. Alright, next you will run 4 Goblin Chieftains. You always want to run 4 of these guys. The main monsters, or I'm sorry, creatures, since this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! The main creatures in this deck are goblins. Goblin Chieftain is haste. Other goblin creatures you control get +1/+1 and have haste. So that's really good, especially when you start playing goblins and you get more and more goblins out on the field. They all have, like, your 1/1 goblins, which are usually really weak, will get +1/+1. So you want to have 4 of him, because you always want to run into him. Next up is 4 Goblin Kings. All goblins get +1/+1 and gain Mountain Walk, which means if your opponent controls a mountain, they can your creatures can attack your opponent directly. This is going to come in handy later. Also, I want to point out that even though the card right here says that Goblin King is not a goblin, because he's a creature, but he's not a creature, not a goblin creature, he is technically a goblin creature according to the new rulings. But you want to run 4 of him, you always want to have him out. The Goblin King is definitely a goblin creature. The reprint of him has him as a goblin creature, so officially he is. Next up, 4 Raging Goblins. You always want to have this guy on the field. He's a 1/1 haste. First turn play, go ahead and start getting some damage off. This entire deck is about getting damage off and finishing off your opponent's life as fast as possible. So 4 Raging Goblins, very, very important to the deck. Next up is Goblin Striker. Goblin Striker is basically your backup to Raging Goblin. It's First Strike, which is a nice little ability, especially later in the game, and haste. He's a 2-cost, so it's a little bit more than your Raging Goblin, but he is totally worth it, especially for that First Strike, considering you're going to be powering him up a lot. Next up is 3 Goblin Traders. This is the strategy of the deck. This guy right here. So basically what he does, he's a 1/1, he is a 2-cost. Target player gains control of target artifact, creature, or land you control. Okay, so once again, you're probably saying, why would you want to do that? Well, think back to, let me get him out, Abyssal Persecutor from earlier. Think about if you were playing your opponent and you got Abyssal Persecutor out. They get kind of cocky because now they can't lose and you can't win. Use Abyssal Persecutor to swing until you either you think you're going to lose, or you know you're going to win the game, and then you play Bizarre Trader, tap, remember you have other goblins that give him haste, and send Abyssal Persecutor to your opponent. Now your opponent has Abyssal Persecutor, and he can't win, and you can't lose. So you just used your own Abyssal Persecutor against him. Another strategy you can use with Goblin Trader, I'm going to put him right back, is give your opponent one of your mountains, and then, you know, if you're having a hard time getting through his creatures, and then play Goblin King. Goblin King gives them Mountain Walk, so once they control one of your mountains, you can attack them directly. I've actually won the game a few times doing that. But anyway, you want to play 3 Bizarre Traders. You don't want to play 4 because at the beginning of the game, he's really not helpful. He's helpful only late game, usually. Next is Lightning Bolt. Any person who plays a red deck ever will tell you to play Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is the best, in my opinion, red burn instant in the game. It is a 1-cost, deals 3 to target creature or player. That's really cool. A lot of the cards that are about to come up are burn and kill spells, because basically your goblins are very weak and you want to be able to get around your opponent's creatures and get straight to your life points. But run 4 of these, never not run 4 of those. Next we have 4 Incinerate. It's basically a 2-cost Lightning Bolt with an added effect. It's also an instant just like Lightning Bolt. Incinerate deals 3 damage to target creature or player. A creature dealt damage this way cannot be regenerated this turn. So that's pretty cool. For those who's playing Blight Mamba and creatures like that, they can regenerate. I run 4 of these. I always want to have these and Lightning Bolt in my opening hand. Next up, 2 Lightning Strikes, just another deals damage, 3 damage to target creature or player. It's also an instant, and it's a 2-cost. And 1 Volcanic Hammer. Volcanic Hammer is just a deal 3 to target creature or player. I'd probably switch that with Lightning Strike if I had another Lightning Strike. I don't, because this is a sorcery, and you'd rather have that instant. But it's still not a bad card to have when you're attacking. Next up, we're getting more like to the kill spells now. Those were the burn spells. And notice I keep talking about killing your opponent's creatures. In this game, you don't want to do too much, or when you're playing this deck, you don't want to do too much killing of your opponent. Like with Lightning Bolt and stuff, when you do 3 damage to your opponent, you don't want to do a ton of that. You more want to kill their creatures and attack with your goblins. That's kind of the point. So next up is 4, I already got them down here, 4 Dismember. This card is 1-cost, 2 Phyrexian mana, which means you can either pay 2 life or use black mana, so that's good. It's a turn 1 card, actually, technically. Target creature gets -5/-5 till the end of turn. So that's pretty good. Run 4 of those always. You're not hopefully going to be worried too much about your own life. Next is Doom Blade, classic black card. Destroy target non-black creature. Most decks you'll be playing probably won't be black. If they are, you can sideboard Doomblade, but for the most part, it's extremely helpful, especially if you have to destroy your own creature for any reason. This card will kill a lot of your opponent's creatures really quick, and it's only a 2-cost black card, so that's why I run it in the deck. Next is one of your most important cards, but you don't want to see it all the time, but it's still extremely important, Tragic Slip. I run 2. Target creature gets -1/-1 till the end of turn, and it's a 1-cost, so, you know, not that great. But its second effect, Morbid. That creature gets -13 until the end of turn, instead if a creature died this turn. So it'll get rid of most of your opponent's really high-cost monsters. I only play 2 because you won't want to see them really till late game, but it'll get rid of your opponent's really high-cost monsters, which, I'm sorry, creatures, since this is Magic. Next, I'm going to run 2 Ragkados. I don't know, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Guildgate. It's basically either a black or red mana, and it comes into the battlefield tapped. You can really run any black or red mana card, because all we're doing is the mana now. But you can run any black or red mana card. I run 2, because that's what I got. And then I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 11. I don't know why I said 12. Take that back. 11 red mana, or I'm sorry, mountains, which produce red mana. I run more of the mountains than I do the swamps because you'll be seeing your red cards a lot more, and the red is more important at the beginning of the game. Abyssal Persecutor and cards like that are more towards the end game if you're having trouble. And last but not least, my swamps, I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you gotta think I have technically 7 with the 2 cards that are black and red. So I run 7, that's what I just said, 7? I run 5. I run 5 swamps. Because you don't really need them till late game, and most of your black cards either require 1 or none. So I only run 5 of those. But strategies, I mean, this deck plays, just, you know, a little summary for you. This deck plays pretty good. You don't need any more than 18 mana, which is what I run total in the deck. But it's like first turn, Raging Goblin on the field, you know, swing, and then you start getting your late game cards out, and then your opponent plays a monster, and you're like, screw your monster, dismember. You know, when I would wait till he goes to block to use your instance, but that's pretty much the whole point of the deck. Your opponent plays creatures. I'm just going to put some cards out here. Lightning Bolt, because I like it. It looks nice. But your opponent basically plays creatures, and then you use cards like this to destroy the creatures, and also it's a form of control, because they're not getting anything out, they're not getting any creature effects out, and you play Lightning Bolt, and you play cards like that, and you just keep swinging for their health, which is the entire point of this deck. It's a nice, like I said, it's a nice Goblin deck for those who are new to play. But anyway, it was a pretty quick deck profile. The deck's pretty simple to play. Thank you for watching my deck profile. Let me put the deck headers out there again. We're going to go to Abyssal Persecutor, and I'll do Goblin Chieftain. Thank you for watching my deck profile, and have yourselves a nice day. Topher Crost out.